Before I begin, I need to give you a little bit of background on the No Child Left Behind and a term that will be used throughout this presentation. No Child Left Behind was a law enacted by President George Bush in the year 2000, and of course President Obama has enacted his own education law, but this presentation deals mainly with the No Child Left Behind. It will deal specifically with standardized testing and adequate yearly progress. Adequate yearly progress is the lowest minimum score required by the government for the schools to show that their students are proficient. And if they do not meet adequate yearly progress, then they are penalized with government funds being withheld. So it is very important for schools to meet adequate yearly progress. However, in the debate over the weaknesses of adequate yearly progress, weaknesses such as schools falsely inflating their test scores and teachers teaching to the curriculum, many people have offered solutions to these problems that they are hoping will be fixed in the No Child Left Behind law by President Obama. One of my favorite stories that reveals how this impacts students is by Ann Quidlin in her 2005 article, Testing 123, and she cites a CNN documentary where an Austin, Texas high school in the year 2000 had 1,160 ninth graders, and in the next year for 10th grade only 300 of those students enrolled, and oddly enough none of those students showed up in dropout statistics. So it's like they just disappeared. So it shows clearly that one of the problems with standardized testing is that schools have learned how to falsely inflate their scores so they can meet adequate yearly progress. And some of the schools will, just like this, not promote students from 9th grade to 10th grade, because 10th grade is the prime year that the government looks at the scores. So they don't look at it in 9th grade and they look at it in 10th. And they will send students that are low performing to different schools so that they don't have to have them on their register, or then some schools have even been known to give the answers. So those are some of the weaknesses. And the solutions that they have offered is that we should follow the progression of individual students, instead of where now they take a 10th grade class and they compare the scores to the next 10th grade class. Instead of each individual student's growth, they compare their scores against classes that aren't even the same, and there's a lot of different dynamics. So the solution is to follow each individual student and show their growth in the test scores. The second thing is that teachers are teaching to the test. They're narrowing their curriculum, so they're missing a whole lot of viable information, making education less interesting. So we have both kinds of learning shown here, where standardized testing, this is the kind of learning that the students are getting, and we always would hope for in our education system is superior learning. Passive learning and active learning. Passive learning means that they are just able to, they have ambiguous guessing on the test. They don't have to know the information, they can ambiguously guess. Active learning is where the kids are allowed to learn with creativity and use their imagination to solve problems and things like that. These two kind of go together. Memorization, regurgitation of facts will give us a kind of learning where there's no profound understanding, and it's kind of like it's a right or wrong answer. There's no processing or learning. Analysis of information and the ability to solve the problems is the kind of learning we would hope to have, and that would look like where the kids are able to reason out problems and to evaluate the information that they're given and to find the value of it. Uniform and diverse learning. Uniform learning would be where there's content knowledge, teachers are only teaching content. And diverse learning is that they are teaching conceptual thinking, where the kids have to evaluate the information and see if it's useful, how to use that information to solve a problem. And that's the kind of learning we hope you have. So to solve that the weakness that this gives us, they've recommended a solution of rewriting the curriculum so that it involves the information that's necessary, the facts to pass the test, but yet all of these are incorporated back into the curriculum where there's active learning and they have to analyze and they have to solve problems and understand all of that. So, in conclusion, the debate over the adequate yearly progress will continue until these cracks are filled, with the weaknesses being the falsely inflating test scores and the solution of tracking individual students, the second weakness of teaching to the test and rewriting the curriculum to solve that problem, and the debate will continue until these problems are solved. And one of the quotes that I love that shows kind of what we're doing, we're measuring and not finding a solution to the answers we get in the measurement, is written by Ann Quidlin again in her 2005 article. Of course, it is important to know that all students have learned to read, that everyone can manage manipulation, but constant testing will no more address the problem with our education system than constantly putting an overweight person on the scale will cure obesity. So we have to find a solution. Instead of continuing to measure, we have to find the solution to the answers to what we are measuring. Any questions?
Yes. What actually happened to the missing students in Austin, Texas?
The students in Austin, Texas, it was revealed that they actually, the majority of them spent 3 years in 9th grade and then dropped out, and they never showed up on dropout statistics.
Okay. Is Obama correcting any of these issues?
Actually, he has made the law more stringent than the No Child Left Behind in his race to the top. He is paralleling the student scores to the teacher's performance and giving bonuses based on that. That's all.